In this episode, we're going to be talking about the brutal truth about buying your first jet. Welcome to BizJet TV. My name is Fabrizio Poli, the author of The Quantum Economy and Be Aware But Don't Care, two great books you need to read. This one is about mindset. This one is about private jets and the business of the future and how these play together. So let's get into the brutal truths about private jet ownership. Now, the first brutal truth is about the mission. Now, very often, people think, oh, no, buy a jet, I'm going to go and visit my cousin in Italy, and so I need something with a long range, blah, 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 blah. And very often, they get the mission wrong. Now, it's very, very important to sit down and sort of realize how many times a year you're going to go to different places. Because if you're going over the pond, as they say, from the United States to Europe once a year, you're not going to need something with that type of range. If most of the time you're flying around and you need a range of 2,000 nautical miles, don't go and buy a 4,000 nautical mile aeroplane, because you can, if you're going to make that trip once. I mean, and I tell the story of an owner that I know who has a Challenger 300, and he goes to the US from the UK 3 times a year. And obviously that airplane doesn't have the range to do it in one hop, but he doesn't mind stopping, getting out, stretching his legs while the pilots refuel the airplane, and then they go again. So, because overall the operating cost of this airplane, because that's the other thing you need to consider, is a lot less if the airplane is smaller. It weighs less, it burns less fuel, the parts cost. It's a bit like a car. When you have a small car and you need to change a tire, it's cheaper than a bigger car because the tire on the bigger car is bigger. Same kind of thing, same kind of principle. So when you're buying an airplane, you need to think of the realistic mission and sit down and think, where do I really need to go with this airplane? And if you have to do the long distance trip once or twice a year, and most of your trips are under 2,000 miles, that's kind of the range you need to go for. The second thing that people get wrong is unscheduled maintenance. Now, you speak to somebody, you hire somebody like myself, we come up with this, and you want to know how much this thing is going to cost, when are the various maintenance events, how long the airplane is going to be down for, but above all, how much is this going to cost? Now, there's only so much we can do as far as unscheduled maintenance, but what is important when you're researching and you're going to be buying an airplane is to find out how often does this type of plane break down, what are the unscheduled maintenance events that happen on this type of airplane, and what parts are usually needed, what can be done to prevent this, why did these things happen. This is the kind of thing that you need to know, because the fancy spreadsheet, it never works out as the real thing. Next thing is management companies. Now, all management companies love it, especially if you're buying a long distance airplane and you knock on their door, say, oh, I'm buying myself a Global 6500, can you manage it for me? And they immediately think, oh yes, and can we charter it for you? We can charter it for you. We can put another 50 hours a month on your airplane, because they're going to make a ton of money on the charter. The problem with something like this is the airplane is going to pick up a charter, especially on the long distance airplanes. When those airplanes pick up a charter, it's never gone for a day. It's always gone for 5 or 6 days. Now suddenly something crops up and you need to go somewhere, and guess what? Your airplane's on the other side of the world. So you've got to be careful with the management companies. Make sure that they're not telling you a story, because obviously that's how they make their money, by chartering your plane out to other people. And so obviously they're going to try and tell you all sorts of fancy stories to lure you in. And so it's important to be very careful about the management company. The next thing is crew and training strategy. And I always talk about this here on BizJet TV. The pilots are more important than the plane. And if you're buying a bigger airplane and you're going to be flying guests on the airplane, you're going to have a flight attendant. That flight attendant needs to be well trained. They have to know how to deal with people. They have to know, how to serve food, how to cook food sometimes. They have to know how to, talk to people, all this kind of thing, because that's the image that your company and yourself are going to be portraying through your crew. But crew is important, so pilots are important. The training, and as I always say, and I talk about this extensively in my book, The Quantum Economy, the safety factor in private aviation is a minimum of 10 times worse than the airlines. So these private jet pilots are flying less than the airline guys, and they're going into more challenging environments. So your crew need to be trained more than the minimum requirement. So if they're telling you, or the guy trying to sell you the airplane, oh yes, pilots go for training once a year, and they spend 3 days in the simulator and that's it. No, you want your pilots to be going twice a year and doing extra training besides the minimum requirement. We need to look at where you're going to be going. if there are any particular challenging airports, we need to look at various emergencies and maybe accidents that have happened on that airplane in the last few years and create some scenario-based training based off of those. This is the kind of thing that needs to be done. So if they're saying to you, budget for training per pilot is $40,000 a year, double that number. The other thing you need to throw in there is upset recovery training. That's another thing which I think pilots should be doing at least once a year. That's going to cost you about 8 to 10 grand per pilot, if not more, depending where you do it and how you do it. And that's another thing that needs to be budgeted. So your crew, hiring the right people, personality-wise, that fit you, obviously good technical background, people that aren't going to create problems. But then those good pilots that you just hired need to stay good. They need the training. It's a bit like if you have a sports team, you hire the best athletes in the world, you need to train them so that they can peak perform all the time. So that's really, really important. You need to budget for that realistically to make sure that the operation is safe. And then you'll be sitting in the back, and after a year you say, well, you know what, we paid for all this extra training, but nothing's ever happened. Well, that's exactly why you pay for the training, because if the pilots are well trained, they'll know how to prevent certain things from happening, and they won't put you in a situation like flying through a thunderstorm. A horror story I heard recently, this pilot flew through the thunderstorm, scared the boss, and also caused a bit of a problem with the exterior of the airplane, and they had to repaint the whole airplane. Airplane was down for a few weeks, cost money, and and they scared the boss. That wasn't good. But that could have been prevented if they had good pilots, or the pilots had been trained properly. Next thing is parts availability. That's another thing. So if you're buying an aircraft, and particularly the older aircraft, you have to sort of ask yourself, okay, if this thing breaks down, are the parts easy to access? Can we get them, and how soon can we get them? Now that's important. Now sometimes on some airplanes, I'll give you an example. On the Falcon 50 EX, okay, and I've been dealing with Falcon 50s lately, I was of the opinion that don't buy a Falcon 50 because it's difficult to find the spare parts, and that is true. But now I've found a source that can get me the parts and that can repair the parts. So sometimes, the parts are difficult to find, but you always find somebody that, has stocked up or knows how to get around it, someone that's a super expert on that particular aircraft. So you need to see if you have access to those kind of people that have the parts available. So if your plane does break down, the parts available, the guy to fix it can come, fix the airplane and get it going. So that's really, really important, because parts availability is really a key thing. Because at the end of the day, as I always tell people, you're not buying a plane, you're buying time. So if that thing has AOG, which means aircraft on ground, you need to ask yourself the question, how soon can that airplane be repaired? And that will also depend on the geographical locations you'll be operating. So if you're operating into the heart of Africa, for example, is that particular manufacturer present there? Or if something goes wrong, can you get a jet in there with an engineer and a spare part to fix the airplane? And how soon can that happen? These are sort of questions that need to be answered before you pull the trigger on buying the aircraft. So that's really, really important. Next is the operating structure of the airplane. Now we briefly touched on management and aircraft being chartered out. Sometimes it is a good idea to charter your airplane out. Sometimes it isn't. A lot will depend on what your expectations are when you buy this airplane. The other thing is, if you are, for example, buying an airplane from the United States and importing it into Europe, there are ways of not paying the VAT. It's perfectly legal, but things need to be structured in a certain way, and that's another thing we can help you with. So operating structure is important. Are you going to operate it privately? Are you going to charter this thing out? How is this airplane going to be imported or exported? These are all things that need to be looked at. So the infrastructure around the airplane is really, really key. Chartering can be a good idea in some cases. Sometimes it's not a good idea. And if you are going to charter, it needs to be done in a certain way. So those are other things that need to be addressed. So as you can see, it's not an easy thing to own a private jet. Next, interiors and customization. Now, some people, they look at the specs of an aircraft and they say, I'd like to change the seats, or I'd like to change the carpet, or I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. My recommendation is don't do too many fancy changes on the interior. This is a plane, takes you from A to B. Try and, if you're going to change the interior, you're going to put a new interior in, make sure that it's something that's, usually light white, magnolia type of color. Seats works in carpet. Don't start going green seats or weird stuff and flowery things and things like that, because the day you have to resell the airplane, people aren't going to like the interior and they're not going to want to pay for all that money that you spent on that fancy interior. So just be careful if you're going to change an interior, or if you're buying an airplane that's got a weird interior, shy away from that unless you want to change the interior. So that's another thing. So over customizing an airplane, never a good idea, because otherwise you're going to get yourself into big trouble when you have to resell it. Now, next thing is ask yourself the question, okay, I'm going to buy this airplane. What happens if in 6 months' time stuff goes wrong and I need to resell it? What is this? How is this airplane behaving in the market? I'll give you an example. We're just recently looking at acquiring an aircraft for somebody, and we're toying up on, do we go Phenom 300 or do we go PC-24? Now, of course, the PC-24 can land on grass. It's got the cargo door. It's got a slightly bigger cabin than the Phenom 300. However, the Phenom 300 is the most sold private jet in the world. So if you're looking at this particular point, you'd say to yourself, well, I'm going to buy the Phenom 300 because if I have to resell it, it's the most sold airplane in the world. NetJets and FlexJet have ordered loads of them. It's a very reliable airplane. I'm going to go for that. However, if your requirement is, well, I need to land on unpaved runways once a week and I'm carrying cargo all the time, then you would have gone PC-24. Even though the PC-24 on the market, there aren't that many out there, and you know, to resell one of those takes a bit longer than the Phenom. However, from an operational standpoint, that is an airplane that you need because you're landing on these unpaved runways all the time and you need that cargo door to put cargo in and out. That really, really is important, and the Phenom 300 doesn't fit that requirement. So those are the kind of things you need to think about. Next is market timing. Sometimes it's a good time to buy an airplane. Sometimes prices are inflated. Just to give you an example, towards November, December of 2025, prices started to go up a little bit because of the bonus depreciation in the United States. So people will scramble to buy an airplane before the end of the year so they could write it off tax-wise and then ride the depreciation. And then what happened in January, February, the prices have come down a bit more. So buying an airplane at the end of last year, unless you really, really needed it and you were going to take advantage of those things, but if you were outside the United States and you didn't have this bonus depreciation thing, why pay the extra dollars to, you know, buy the airplane and close in December? No, just wait till January, February and then buy the aircraft. So timing is important, and that's why, again, using a professional like myself that's in the market, I know what's going on all the time. You know, I've got tools here that tell me what's sold, what prices certain airplanes are going for, and all this kind of thing. It's really, really important because timing is key also, especially on pricing. The next thing is, you know, as you've realized, it's quite a complex thing to buying a private jet, but it's not just the buying of the jet, it's the day-to-day operations. Because obviously there's a reason why you're buying the jet, and you're buying the jet to use it to fly. Okay, you're going to use it to fly your family, you're going to use it to fly guests, you're going to use it for business trips. These are the reasons you're buying the jet. So ultimately, when this thing is being operated, that's what we need to look at. So we almost need to do this back to front. We need to think, okay, airplane's on the ground, it's in the hangar, it's 15 minutes from your house. How is it gonna, what's your week gonna look like? Okay, oh, I'm gonna be doing 3 trips this week. I'm going here, I'm going there, I'm going there. Are these trips planned? Is it something that in the morning you get a phone call, you decide you have to go somewhere in the afternoon? These are the kind of things that we need to talk about first, and then we have to track all the way back to then finding the airplane and buying the airplane. Too many people get lost on the pretty pictures of the plane and the interior and this and that and the range, and they don't realize, let's think of the ultimate thing here. Why are we buying the plane? What is it going to look like once you have the airplane in the hangar? It's crewed, it's ready to go. What's your week going to look like? Is it going to be, well, I'm going to fly once this week and then I want to charter it the other days? Is it going to be, I need it there 24/7 because I get phone calls in the morning and suddenly I need to go for a meeting that's 2 hours away by plane? These are the type of things. And then also, how many crew are you going to hire? Do you just need 2 pilots? Do you need 3? Do you need 4? Do you need 6? Are you going to use contract pilots or not? Are there enough contract pilots in your area that if you decide to just hire 1 pilot and use a contract pilot from time to time, or maybe you want to fly yourself? That's another issue, and we haven't talked about that because there's more and more people today that are deciding to buy a plane, learn to fly, and fly the plane themselves. That's a whole thing. We've done a whole series of videos about that here on BizJet TV. We'll be doing more and more about that. We also have launched our own company to train these people called Aerovat. If you go to flyaerovat.com, you can see the link below. you can find out about that too. But that's all from me here on this episode of BizJet TV. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe to the channel and check out this recent video we did with TJ Schembecker. He is the president of the Cirrus Owner Pilots Association. Very nice gentleman. He flies his own plane. He tells a story of how he bought his Cirrus and how Cirrus is really shaping the industry, and how many people, new people, are coming in to the market. They've never flown a plane before, and they're buying a Cirrus and they're learning to fly these airplanes, and these airplanes eventually educate them to a point where they're ready to buy a jet and fly their own jet. So it's really, really cool interview. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. So check out this one here with TJ Schembecker. And that's all from Publicity Polly here on BizJet TV, and I'll see you on the next one.